Shedeur Sanders, one of the most hyped young quarterbacks in the league, was staring down a potential fifth-round pick from the Baltimore Ravens. But instead of leaning into the cloud of a franchise like Baltimore, he did something rare. He straight up told them no thanks. Not because he didn't want to play in the NFL, but because he didn't want to sit behind Lamar Jackson with no real shot at starting. That move? It raised eyebrows. But now, it's looking like a power play. This wasn't some impulsive diva moment. It was a calculated career choice. Sanders knew that getting buried on a depth chart behind one of the league's top QBs wouldn't do him any favors. And honestly, who could blame him? No matter how respected a team is, no one wants to spend their rookie years warming the bench just because someone upstairs likes the optics.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Meanwhile, the Browns, desperate for quarterback stability, did what the Browns do. They fumbled the moment. They had every reason to at least entertain Sanders, especially considering their quarterback room is hanging on by a thread. Joe Flacco, injured. Deshaun Watson, still trying to find the plot. Cleveland fans are watching the team spiral and wondering how many signs the front office needs before they act like they've seen a football game before. And as if the timing couldn't be more poetic, Baltimore demolished Cleveland 41-17 in a game that left no room for interpretation. Lamar Jackson, the very QB Sanders wanted to avoid shadowing, delivered a masterclass. Meanwhile, Cleveland looked like they were running a live-action reenactment of a bad Madden simulation. The contrast couldn't be more brutal. But let's get back to that $25 million. That's not pocket change. That's generational wealth money. That's stay out of Cleveland money. And someone, whether it's a team behind the scenes, an agency, or a future suitor, offered it with a clear purpose. Keep Sanders out of a bad situation so he doesn't waste his potential. The fact that this much money is being thrown around off-draft just to steer a player's path is wild. It tells you everything you need to know about the game being played behind closed doors. NFL insider Shannon Sharpe hinted that this whole thing goes way deeper than the public knows. According to him, this isn't just about Shedeur being picky. There are layers, negotiations, long-term planning, maybe even leverage for something bigger. Sharpe stopped short of naming names, but the message was clear. Shedeur Sanders isn't just navigating the draft. He's managing a brand, a career, a future. The Ravens, for their part, did what teams usually do. They shrugged and moved on. But you have to wonder, if Sanders had said yes, what kind of trajectory would that have set off? Would Baltimore have shifted their QB room? Would they have tried grooming him as a successor to Lamar down the line? Or would he have been stuck in purgatory, waiting for something that would never come? But Sanders didn't wait. He didn't gamble on what-ifs. He looked at the chessboard and walked away. And that move? That's not just bold, it's strategic. He understood that visibility and timing matter more than being drafted by a team that can't use you. And with Cleveland's current meltdown, it's pretty clear they could have used him. Now, they're left scrambling while Sanders is fielding massive offers from. Who exactly? That's still unclear. But the number? That speaks volumes. The Browns' inability to secure or even engage properly with Sanders now looks like a missed opportunity of epic proportions. They've got a quarterback crisis, a demoralized fan base, and a public narrative that's shifting from rebuilding to repeating history. And you know what that history looks like? Endless mediocrity with brief bursts of hope that get crushed before winter. This $25 million saga highlights a much bigger shift in the NFL. Players are no longer waiting around for teams to define their careers. They're making moves. They're drawing boundaries. They're rejecting bad fits, even if it means walking away from the traditional path. And Sanders? He's at the center of this shift. He didn't chase clout or status. He chased control. And you can already feel the ripple effect. If young players see that saying no can lead to better opportunities and seven-figure checks, they'll start thinking differently. The NFL draft might never look the same again. Gone are the days of rookies accepting bad placements just to wear the jersey. Now, They want the right team, the right timing, and the right career setup. It's also worth noting that Cleveland didn't just pass on talent. They passed on a headline maker. Sanders comes with pedigree, charisma, and fan attention. He's box office. And in a league where quarterback performance and brand value go hand in hand, the Browns missed a chance to snag both. Meanwhile, Sanders is doing what the greats do, waiting, watching, calculating. If Cleveland continues to unravel, and another team sees the potential to bring him in as a real QB1 candidate, he's ready. And now he's got leverage. A lot of it. Because when someone offers you $25 million to not go somewhere, it means they see value in your next move. That's power. That's market value. That's the future of NFL career planning. This isn't just about football anymore. It's about business. Sanders is showing that the smartest play might not be throwing a ball on Sunday. Sometimes it's knowing when to take the field and for whom. And if Cleveland thought they were going to lowball or overlook him, they're probably watching this whole thing unfold with a heavy dose of regret. As for the Ravens, sure, they're sitting pretty now. Lamar Jackson is running the show, and they don't have to deal with any drama. But even they have to acknowledge that Sanders knew what he was doing. He saw the logjam and didn't bother fighting for scraps. That's not arrogance. That's foresight. And while we're here, let's not pretend that $25 million is just about steering clear of Cleveland. It's a statement. It says, you don't get to decide my worth. I do. And for a young quarterback in today's NFL, that kind of agency is revolutionary. So now the question isn't why Sanders turned down Baltimore or walked away from Cleveland. The question is, who gets him next? And how much are they willing to pay to do it right? In a league that eats rookies alive and turns potential into what could have been faster than a fourth quarter collapse, Shedeur Sanders is playing a long game. And right now, it looks like he's winning. So what do you think? Was Sanders right to draw the line with Baltimore? Did Cleveland blow the opportunity of the season? And seriously, who is behind that $25 million mystery offer? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and stick around. Because if this is how Shedeur Sanders is starting his NFL story, the next chapter is going to be wild. What Sanders just did was flip that power dynamic completely on its head. He didn't just not go to Baltimore. He told them not to bother. And by doing so, he sent a very clear message. I'm not a pawn. I'm not here to fill your roster gaps. I'm here to build a legacy on my terms. That mindset? That's dangerous for teams who've been used to calling the shots. But for players watching this unfold, it's liberating. This isn't just about Shedeur anymore. It's about every high-value college prospect who's been silently wondering if they have to accept the system as is. Spoiler alert, they don't. Now let's zoom back in on Cleveland, because wow, what a spectacular fumble. Let's be generous for a second. Maybe they thought Sanders would fall into their lap. Maybe they assumed he'd be grateful for any shot. But when you look at what they actually did, passing up the opportunity to fix their quarterback situation with someone who wanted to be strategic, not just employed, it's giving self-sabotage. And while they're out here trying to stitch together a Frankenstein QB rotation with Flacco and Watson both barely upright, the league's watching. Other teams are watching. The fans? They're exhausted. And Shedeur? He's watching too. But not with desperation. He's watching with clarity. Because here's the thing about quarterbacks. They're the heartbeat of a team. You don't build a successful franchise by patching the position every season and hoping for the best. You need stability, talent, and long-term investment. Sanders could have been that. And now, they're stuck watching his stock rise while there's tanks. And let's not downplay that $25 million again. That figure didn't come out of nowhere. That's the kind of number you throw around when you're sure the player you're backing is worth it. It's insurance. It's belief. It's also a pretty loud don't screw this up warning shot to teams thinking about how they approach talent moving forward. Some are speculating that the offer wasn't even about keeping Sanders out of Cleveland specifically. It was about protecting his trajectory. Because one wrong move early on can derail even the most promising careers. And going into a QB room as messy and mismanaged as Cleveland's? That's career quicksand. You get in, you don't get out. So again, we circle back to the boldness of it all. Shadur Sanders, rookie, unproven at the pro level, still with everything to prove, looked at the state of play and chose patience over panic. Positioning over prestige. That's not ego. That's vision. And let's be clear, saying no in this league is rare, especially before your first paycheck clears. But he's not waiting to be handed a moment. He's creating one. He's controlling the narrative before it writes him into someone else's system. That kind of clarity takes guts, and it sets a new bar. Now, of course, there are skeptics. People saying he hasn't played it down in the NFL. Who does he think he is? But those same people weren't asking that question when teams were tossing millions at backup QBs with a fraction of Sanders' upside. Let's not pretend the league's always been fair or merit-based when it comes to opportunity. Sanders is just exposing that by flipping the script. He's not being difficult. He's being selective. There's a difference. And in the long run, that kind of mindset, it might be the only way to survive in a league that chews players up and spits them out if they don't play the game just right. He's not risking his future. He's protecting it. Let's also not ignore how eerily quiet things are coming from the Browns camp. No explanation. No damage control. Just silence. Which honestly says a lot. You don't stay quiet when you're confident you made the right call. You stay quiet when you know the receipts are coming. And those receipts are going to look like Shadur Sanders lighting it up in another jersey, while Cleveland is still holding tryouts mid-season. And when that happens, when Sanders finally lands in a place that knows what to do with him, it's going to be ugly for the teams that passed. Because this story isn't ending quietly. If anything, this is just a prologue. So what now? Well, the Browns are probably going to pretend like this was all no big deal. That they're fine. That Deshaun Watson just needs more time. That Joe Flacco still has some gas left in the tank. But we've seen this movie before, and spoiler alert, it doesn't end well. Meanwhile, Sanders is going to keep doing what he's been doing. Training, staying ready, and waiting for the right door to open. And when it does, he's walking through it with leverage, money, and a carefully crafted narrative that he controlled from the start. And if teams are smart, they're taking notes. Because this isn't just a one-off story. This is a shift. We're entering a new era where players with vision and leverage are no longer willing to be cogs in a broken machine. They want fit, purpose, and opportunity. And they're willing to walk away from tradition and even guaranteed money to get it right. That's not just evolution. That's revolution. So yeah, the NFL is in shock right now. Because someone just did what everyone else has been too afraid to try. Shadur Sanders didn't just walk away from Cleveland. He walked into something bigger. And that $25 million? That wasn't just an offer. It was a warning. A signal that the game has changed, and not everyone is ready for it. As the dust continues to swirl around this $25 million stunner, let's talk about the ripple effect. Because this isn't just affecting the Browns, the Ravens, or even just Shadur Sanders. No, this move is echoing across front offices, locker rooms, and agents' group chats league-wide. Quiet phone calls. Nervous owners. GMs suddenly realizing, if this is what a rookie is capable of negotiating before ever taking an NFL snap, what happens when this becomes normal? And you can feel the fear. Let's not kid ourselves. NFL teams are used to having the upper hand. They operate with military-level control over the draft. You get picked, you go. End of story. They might throw a press conference your way, maybe some PR fluff about how thrilled they are to bring you into the family. But you don't get a choice. That's the whole setup. But Sanders just cracked that playbook wide open. By opting out of the Ravens, by rejecting a less-than-ideal fit, and by potentially accepting a massive financial incentive just to stay out of the Browns' orbit, he's showing every other incoming prospect that the system can be bent, if you know your worth and you're willing to wait. And honestly, that's terrifying for teams that rely on obedience and hope. You know the ones, perennial rebuilders, franchises that can't seem to stop stepping on rakes. They're the teams that have made a career out of drafting talent and squandering it. Teams like Cleveland. Let's be blunt here. Cleveland had an opportunity to make a forward-thinking move. A smart, calculated pick for the future. And instead, they did what Cleveland does. Played it safe. Played it scared. Or, maybe worse, played it like they didn't have to convince anyone to join them. Well, surprise. Shedeur doesn't need them. In fact, if these reports are true, a whole lot of people are actively making sure he stays away from them. Think about that for a second. It's one thing for a player to avoid a team. It's another for someone to put $25 million on the table to ensure that avoidance sticks. That's a serious level of concern. That's not personal, it's business. Cold, calculated business from someone who sees the long-term damage a bad fit can cause. So who has the power now? Because it sure doesn't feel like the teams anymore. And yet, it's not like this story paints Sanders as a villain. Far from it. The way he's moving, cautious, calculated, in full control, it's setting him up not just as a quarterback, but as a leader. Someone who's thinking about his entire career, not just how to survive rookie camp. And that's a narrative teams are going to have to learn to work with, not against. Because this new generation of players, they're built different. They've grown up watching documentaries about athletes who lost everything. They've seen stars get traded mid-season, rookies get buried on depth charts, and franchises make promises they never intended to keep. So when someone like Sanders steps up and says, "Actually, I'm not doing this your way," it's not just a flex. It's a blueprint. It's also a mirror. One that's forcing teams to take a long, hard look at how they operate. And right now, Cleveland's reflection isn't exactly flattering. Their quarterback room is in shambles. Their fan base is fed up. And now, they're the punchline of a story involving a rising star and a $25 million check they didn't even get a chance to match. That's not just bad optics. That's franchise-level embarrassment. And you have to wonder, how long before the rest of the league stops treating Cleveland like a struggling team and starts treating them like a cautionary tale? Because here's what the smart franchises are doing right now, studying. They're looking at the Sanders situation and realizing that from here on out, you don't just draft players, you have to recruit them. You have to make your team a place someone wants to be. You need culture, leadership, flexibility, and, most importantly, a plan. Baltimore had a plan. It just didn't include a starting role for Sanders. So he passed. That's not an ego trip. That's realism. Sitting behind Lamar Jackson isn't learning from the best. It's being locked behind an MVP wall. A wall you're never climbing unless disaster strikes. And Sanders knew that. Cleveland? They didn't even have a plan. And now they don't have Sanders either. But let's zoom out. This isn't just about one player and two franchises. This is about a tectonic shift in how the NFL works. You can feel it happening, even if the league's not ready to admit it. Player empowerment, something that's been creeping into the league slowly year after year, is officially kicking the door down. And if Sanders is the face of that movement, he's starting it with a statement louder than any preseason touchdown ever could. Refusing a draft? Bold. Walking away from a legacy franchise? Bolder. Letting your career breathe before it's even officially started? That's playing 4D chess, while the rest of the league is still reading the rulebook. And let's not act like this $25 million number came out of thin air. That's the kind of offer that's meant to lock someone in. It says, we see where you're headed, and we're investing in the possibility of what comes next. That's not hype. That's belief. Serious belief. Backed by very real money. So now the question becomes, who's next? Because if Shedeur Sanders can set this precedent, you better believe others are watching. The next crop of quarterbacks? Watching. Star prospects in college? Watching. Agents? Taking notes. Players are seeing, in real time, that you can push back. You can control the narrative. And if you're smart enough and valuable enough, there will be people ready to pay you for your patience. It's a new world. And Shedeur Sanders might have just walked through the first door. Now all eyes are on him. What team will get him? When will he sign? And more importantly, how will he continue to manage this chessboard he's built for himself? Because let's be clear, this is only going to get messy, eh? Teams who thought they could lowball talent are going to have to start sweetening the pot. Not just with money, but with vision, promises, Plans. Players are going to want to see what their career could look like with your franchise, not just what the rookie year salary will be. And the ones that don't adapt, they're going to get left behind, just like Cleveland. So, yeah, the NFL is in shock. And maybe it should be, because this wasn't supposed to happen. Rookies aren't supposed to walk away from opportunity. They're not supposed to negotiate from power. And they're definitely not supposed to have $25 million reasons to stay out of certain buildings. But here we are. A player with no pro experience, no team jersey, and no NFL snaps. Just redefine the playbook. Now that's a power move. This is so much bigger than just football. It's about power, perception, and the rare moment when a young athlete manages to seize control of a machine that usually swallows rookies whole. The NFL doesn't give up control easily. It builds careers, and it buries them too. But now, the league just got a wake-up call from a kid who hasn't even thrown a professional pass yet. You really think teams are sleeping easy after this? Let's talk front office politics for a second. GMs are sweating. You don't want to be the next guy caught slipping while a top-tier prospect walks away with both the leverage and the audience. Because make no mistake, people are watching Sanders' every move, every interview, every cryptic post, every sideline appearance. It's all part of a slow-burn storyline now. He's not playing the league. He's letting the league play itself. Meanwhile, fans in Cleveland? They're doing what they always do, bracing for heartbreak. You got a team with no long-term quarterback security, a roster that looks like a jigsaw puzzle mid-construction, and now a missed opportunity that could haunt them for years. And if Sanders does land somewhere else and starts lighting up the field, the think pieces will write themselves. Could have been us. You know the vibe. And this isn't even about Sanders being perfect. He hasn't proven anything in the NFL yet. But he understands the moment. He knows that being drafted isn't the finish line, it's the starting gate. And if the track ahead is broken, why run it at all? He's not just betting on himself. He's demanding that the league meet him where he is, not the other way around. That kind of confidence? That's terrifying to the old guard. And inspiring to the next generation. Because maybe it's time more players said no. Maybe it's time to stop pretending that draft day is a fairy tale for everyone. Maybe it's time teams earn their talent, not just pick it. So yeah, the NFL is rattled. Cleveland is exposed. And Shadur Sanders? He's just getting started. Now tell me, if you were holding the cards, if you had the offer, the vision, the leverage, would you settle? Or would you do what Sanders did? Let it burn and build something better. Hit the comments and drop your take, because this story's not over. Not even close. And make sure you're subscribed. Because if the NFL keeps melting down like this, we'll be here every time with front row seats to the fallout.